We're going to be talking about shifting generations and how do you handle that? How do you address it? What do you do? For sure, you could get along for a while by sticking your head in the sand about it, but that is not possible anymore, isn't it?
It is not possible.
Welcome to the Richer Retailer Podcast. Our guest today is the amazing, the fabulous, the not to be believed, the professor extraordinaire, the maven, marvelous, majestic, all the superlatives for you, Dana Connell. She's one of our very own Retail Mavens coaches, and this is her second time on the podcast. I only have one other person that's ever been on the podcast twice already. So Dana has 40 plus years of retail experience across sales and in management and in buying. And now she's a retail professor at Columbia College, Chicago, in downtown Chicago. And she loves making retail simple to help everyone become richer, more successful, more profitable, all of that. Welcome, Dana. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Cathy. I'm very happy to be here. And indeed, I do try to break things down and make it simple because, as we have always said in retail, it's not rocket science, nor is it brain surgery. So it's pretty simple things, and I'm excited to talk about it today. So I've been teaching at Columbia College Chicago for about 35 years.
You started when you were 5.
Exactly. I don't really know how that's possible, but it is true. And as I was reflecting on talking about this today, I was thinking about all of the generations that I have literally educated and thinking about how all of that time and change has occurred over that 35 years.
Incredible.
Right? So just think about it. So I've taught Gen X, I've taught Millennials, I've taught Gen Z, and Gen Alpha is coming into college in the next 2 years. It's wild to think about, right?
Right, exactly. Wow, you've seen so much change.
I've seen a lot of change, and I'm thinking about how I teach and the way that the tools that I have, right? So 35 years ago, it was textbooks and a calculator and a pencil. And today we have Excel, we have these amazing learning management systems, and now we have AI. And so the shift that has happened for me as an educator, that shift has also happened for retailers over time. I mean, I think back to when I first started to do buying, I was a calculator. And actually, I wasn't even a calculator. I was an adding machine. I mean, just think about it as a retailer. Can you even imagine life before social media? And many of you have been around long enough to know that you've been running businesses before social media. Just think back 6 years pre-COVID, right? You know, buying online. You might have had an online presence, but you weren't really selling anything. And probably a lot of you could still be selling more online. But these generational shifts, technology shifts, all the things that have happened in our world affect us in retail every single day. And what's really important to think about is how every generation, what their share of wallet is and their spending power. And that also, goes hand in hand with whatever's going on in the economy. So the tariffs are just such a moving target, but there are many, many economic shifts that go along with that as well. Right. So I'm excited to talk today about these generational shifts.
Which is a perfect segue into the title, which I didn't even tell y'all. So that is what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about shifting generations and how do you handle that? How do you address it? What do you do? For sure, you could get along for a while by sticking your head in the sand about it, but that is not possible anymore, isn't it?
It is not possible. And did some work with a store. Gosh, it's been several years ago. And I said to this store owner at the time, this happened to be a heavily town that was mostly retirees and had a very short summer population of families. And I said to her at the time, I said, this demographic here is changing. I can literally see it on the street. And she didn't really believe me. And this was before COVID, actually. And then COVID hit, and man, it is a whole new world, right? Because we can live and work in a lot of different places. So we can go live in a different place and work remotely. And so that shifts the demographic in our communities, which is especially important for independent retailers. So if we think about who the customers are, right? So let's think about who boomers are. We know boomers are age 60 plus up to about 80. Crazy to say that, but they spend about $5 to $6 trillion annually. Okay. We know that they have wallet. Gen X come after the boomers, right? And the Gen Xers, they spend about 4 to 5 billion on their annual spend.
Wow,
right?
that's a huge decrease.
Well, and think about why that is, right? Because
Yeah,
they've got other kinds of responsibility. Millennials, so think about millennials, they're in the 29 to 44 age group. I probably should have said Gen X is like 45 to 60. So those millennials are spending $3 to $4 trillion annually. And then we have Gen Z. Gen Z is such a new generation to think about. They have really shifted their priorities. So they are spending, they're 13 to 28 years old. They are spending $1.5 to $2 trillion. So they are right behind those millennials. They are going to, by 2034, okay, 2034, it's now 2026. So in the next 8 years, they are going to lead spend to $9 trillion. Let that sink in for a hot second. They are going to be leading that spending. So we cannot forget about them. We have to pay attention to them.
Okay, hold on. Let's just review these all again because I can tell you that it gets jumbled in my head sometimes. So boomers is 60 to 80. Gen X then is 45 to 60.
Right.
Millennials then are 29 to 45 or 44. Okay. Then the Gen Z is like 13 to 28.
28. Yeah.
Okay, one more time. So now if you could just tell me how much money each of those people spend. So the boomers
are spending 5 to 6 trillion annually.
Okay. Then Gen X
is spending 4 to 5 billion annually.
Wow, so that's the big drop. That's the 45 to 60.
45 to 60.
Then the millennials are 29 to 45.
3 to 4 trillion.
3 to 4. And then Gen Z.
2 trillion currently. And they're going to grow to 9. Wow. So just think about those age groups, right? That Gen X population might be caring for younger children and aging parents. They probably have greater household obligations. They may have more debt. So their spending habits are going to be a little bit different. And that's, when we think about that share of wallet, those are the things that we have to think about.
And share of wallet, define that for me too.
Yeah. So if you think about, how much, literally their wallet, how much money do they have to spend? It's kind of like what we talk about in Retail Mavens when we're doing our coaching, right? Like you spend 10% on your rent and 10% on your team members. So how much of our wallet is going to our housing costs? How much of it is going to food and so on and so forth? And so, of course, once you take care of those fixed costs, right? Then what do you have left that's a variable cost? What do you have left to spend at your favorite independent store down the street? Or what do you have left to spend to go to a Taylor Swift concert? Or to do those different things. And every generation prioritizes those things a little bit differently. So I want to touch on that a little bit. But before I get to that, I just want to talk really quickly about, so boomers, right? That's the oldest group. They make up about 20.8, so call it 21% of spending power, global spending power. Okay. I got these numbers from Nielsen and McKinsey and some other places. I'm always looking at the research. I'm not just pulling these out of my head. So what about the other 80%? Right? Where's the other 80% coming from? Think about this for a second. So 62% of boomers use social media. 69% of boomers prefer brands contact them by email. So think about how you're communicating with your customer. 90% of boomers don't feel represented in the advertising that they see. I think we can see that, right? So boomers, how do they treat themselves? So this is where to start to pay attention. Where are they spending that wallet, right? Where do they treat themselves? Well, guess what? They treat themselves on restaurant, on groceries, and on travel. Those are the top 3 places that they spend their money. So if you're not in one of those categories, that customer is probably not spending as much money with you anymore. Maybe they used to spend money with you, but if you've seen them cut back, that's probably the reason why. So it's a big drop off before they get to apparel, footwear, beauty, electronics, and so on. So unless you're a restaurant, grocery, or travel, boomers have moved on.
Okay, but or if there's a way for you to incorporate that in what you're doing. I mean, we
Yeah.
talk about that a lot. We all at Retail Mavens, we say all the time, what else is possible? And we have clients that take their customers on trips and all that kind of stuff. That's one way I believe to kind of to find a way to get back in there in a way you wouldn't have thought otherwise, I think.
Absolutely. And to do collaborations, like do a
Yeah.
collaboration, do something with the local restaurant where they get something to come into your store, they get something to go to the restaurant, do some kind of a collaboration like that.
Or do an event there. Like we have Megan does things at the local brewery that's right down the street from her. She'll do knitting lessons there, which is crazy. Like, years ago, when you talk about how you've been through so much, that would have been like, you would never have done that. Why would I take my customers to another place?
That's exactly right. So now let's talk about Gen X for a second. So as I said a minute ago, they have significant responsibilities, right? They've got maybe a lot of other things going on, supporting children, aging parents, and so on. They prioritize experiences over material possessions. Okay. So their major spend categories, the top two are restaurants and groceries. But I will tell you that apparel, travel, beauty, electronics, and footwear all rank a little bit higher. All of that said, they also prioritize health, wellness, and preventative care. So back to the point about, collaborations with the restaurant. So how can you do, maybe you have educational seminars or something in your store about health and wellness. At Retail Mavens, Cathy, you are like the health maven of the Retail Mavens, right? You prioritize that.
Right.
So apparently you are Gen X. And so why can't you bring that part into your store? So how are you collaborating on that?
Well, it's funny because Debbie from Flex Fitness in Hawaii, she just did a Valentine's or Galentine's Day party, she called it, and she brought in a woman from a local spa to do Botox and to talk about preventative care and to do all that kind of stuff. And she was kind of worried because she felt like she didn't get a lot of sales from it, which I understand. But I see so clearly now that that's not the point of it. The point is to get your business firmly planted in their head as what they do. And then while they're at that experience, you're offering them the next one. It's because they'll have fun all together. And then they're likely to all agree to come back to your next one.
That's exactly right. And then you're top of mind when they need X, Y, or Z, a gift or something for themselves or whatever it is. So the other interesting thing about Gen X is that they prioritize brand loyalty and customer service. Oh my gosh. So we talk about IMU all the time, right? And so we hear our clients say, well, I can't charge more because the customers are complaining. No.
It is not.
You offer customer service. You offer that personal feeling, that personal one-on-one that large online retailers don't offer.
Or they screw up all the time.
Or they do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
right. And the one person that's complaining, they're not one of your thumbs. How we always talk about out of 10 clients.
I'm going to talk about that.
Well, the 2 customers. And for sure, you have to learn not to listen to them. I think it's such a good example. It's such a good moment to point out that you have to learn, because I think also what sometimes happens when I hear about generations like this, I tend to just think of who in my life is like the avatar for that generation. But the information that you're hearing right now is representative of the entire generation. You've got to remember that. So you're thinking about somebody and you're like, well, they don't care. This millennial life says she doesn't even care about experiences at all. It doesn't matter. She's an outlier. She's part of the noise. She's not a signal. Everything that Dana's talking to you about today are signals for you to take action on. That's what these are.
Yes. Millennials shop online once a week. What percent of millennials shop online once a week?
85.
Okay, you're a little high. 60.
Oh, really?
60% of them shop online.
That's of all, right? So, again, going to the average thing. So that means that there are some that shop 85, and then there's some that shop less. But wow. But if the average is that high, wow.
So 6 out of 10 of your millennial friends are shopping online once a week at least, right? And they spend, here we go back to the restaurant collabs, right? They spend 30% of their income dining out.
Wow.
Okay.
So millennials, again, are the kids that are from 29 to 45.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. 30% of their income.
This is your daughter and my daughter.
Yeah. Right. Crazy. Crazy.
It's so quick. A, they can easily dine out, and B, they could so easily use the delivery services, right? They can DoorDash it. They can whatever those delivery services are. And that makes it easy for them. And so that's something to really think about. So here's the other thing about millennials that's so, so, so critically important. And I have seen this with my students over and over and over again, and I hear it over and over and over again. They support brands that align with their values. And what are those values? Those values are sustainability and social responsibility. This is a huge shift from previous generations. Okay. Where do they treat themselves? Again, first they treat themselves to restaurants and groceries. Those are the top two. Then it's apparel, then beauty, footwear, electronics. Those are the next highest ranking group. Wow. And then it's travel, jewelry, and home.
That's proof of how I have clients that have added beauty to what they do, and they've done very well with it. I mean, all aspects of it, perfume, as well as lip, and as well as face products.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, absolutely. And I've had clients that have done the exact same thing, Cathy. They have added simple beauty things. It's not even like adding a whole line. And those have done really well for them, if that's their customer. Okay. So let's talk about Gen Z. These are the 16 to 29, about 30-year-olds. 50% of them shop online, period. Guess how they discover new products?
Social media.
Which social media?
Oh, TikTok.
45% of them discover new products on TikTok.
Whew.
60% are influenced by influencers. I think we kind of know that, right? And
60%. 60%.
Yeah, 60%. And 60%, this number kind of blew me away. I was surprised by this. But 60% will pay more for sustainable products.
Wow.
Okay. Where do they treat themselves? Well, this is so fascinating to think about, because where apparel has been like on the second level for everybody else, it's number one for this group.
And they love sustainable products, right? I mean, because it's interesting, because I have a client that we just talked the other day about how much money, about changing her open to buy for fall, because she wants to bring in what she's calling slow fashion, which is the same, so much of that is the same thing. And I was telling her, yeah, that's a great idea. So I thought I'd do a little event. Oh no, not a little event. You'll do a week-long event talking about how you're doing this. I mean, there's so much to talk about and to really make a splash about this. So yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so much to talk about. And I think, what's really interesting there too is they're willing to pay more for it as long as you tell them the story, right? Give them those attributes. You have to make it clear why it costs what it costs. Can't just put it out there, because there's all kinds of websites. This generation is all over Good on You. It's a website that evaluates sort of the efficacy on sustainability from brands. So they do pay attention to that. But again, you heard restaurants again. So every group is eating. So what are you doing, right? And maybe it's just food and groceries too, right? Groceries might also mean that you're having people over to your house. When you're cooking, we see a lot of that on social media, don't we? A lot of that kind of stuff on TikTok.
And why couldn't you do a class like that in every store? So Deb from Flex Fitness in Hawaii, so we were talking about events that she could perhaps do. And it turns out her husband, who is a professional bodybuilder, but he has mastered the chef part of high protein, low calorie foods that are, she said, just unbelievably delicious. And I said, oh my gosh, he's got to do a cooking class in the store. But it hadn't occurred to me that everybody could do that. It's a fabulous idea.
Well, and it could be cooking. It could be charcuterie boards. Maybe they're,
right.
still going. I mean, you have to know where your customer is too, right? On the trend line. Are they like just trying it out, or is it at the peak?
Right.
But I saw a super fun thing online the other day. It was, I think, on Instagram. It was, they had little cakes, like about, little squares, and they were painting their cakes. So it was like a little cake decorating thing. Like, how cute is that? It was super fun.
Well, and then you add themes to it. Like we go to one here in Chicago all the time called Bon Vivant, BONVIVANT. Shout out, because it's a fabulous place. It's a bakery, but they do these amazing classes, and then they're all themed. So did we go to the Taylor Swift one? Did we have our entire family go to the Taylor Swift one? Yeah, we were half of the
Of course
thing.
you were.
Because it was so fun to do. Like, it was such a fun activity to bring everybody together. And so how can you come up with ideas like that and themes like that? You're absolutely right. Geez, you could do it in an easy bake oven. Can you even imagine?
Oh my
Isn't
God,
that
that would be
hilarious?
so fun. And nostalgia is totally on trend right now. Totally on trend. Okay,
Right.
I have to go back to your Taylor Swift for a second. So here's a fun fact that you may know. Gen Z spends very heavily on live music. It was a 2025 Yahoo Finance survey. They spend an average of $2,100 on tickets over the last 2 years. And I have heard this in other places. They are doing like Klarna and other things to, buy now, pay later on those concert tickets, but they will pay a premium on concert tickets. And this is all about experiences. And as we were talking about in another session about FOMO, right? They don't want to miss out. So
it's like the whole thing with Harry Styles. This is a direct affirmation of what you're talking about, because Harry Styles, he's doing a worldwide tour, and the Ticketmaster, which is United States only, they said that they had the highest sign-up rate for early first pre-sales that they had ever had. Their highest sign-up rate. And so, okay, great. I don't care. We're really good at getting tickets. We're going to get tickets. He's going to be at Madison Square Garden for 30 days in October and in September. Out of all the people that signed up to get tickets, were only enough seats in those 30 days for 5% of the people that signed up.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a direct affirmation of what you're saying.
Yeah, totally is. Okay, so out of all this, we've talked about the online shopping and everything. Now I'm going to just go in a completely opposite direction and tell you that Gen Alpha prefers shopping in brick and mortar stores, 73% of them.
And they are the 13 to 28-year-olds?
Yeah. So think about why that might be, right? It's because they've grown up with just technology in their hands, the electronic world. And so they're craving a hands-on experience and a socialization that they've never really had. And it gets that's where all this nostalgia is coming from. It's coming from people saying, oh, I never had that. Like, your Easy Bake Oven is such a great example. And so they're like, hey, let's do this. I mean, people are buying flip phones again. It's just really funny to me. So that's kind of the generational landscape that I really wanted to talk about today, to sort of set the stage for that. So now you can ask me the next question.
So stop right there, Dana, because this is such powerful information that you've delivered so clearly. And what I think is so fantastic is what's coming next. Listen. Oh my goodness. Wait till you hear the whole second episode where we take all of this information and put it into crisp, simple, actionable strategies. Can strategies be actionable? Well, of course they can. What am I saying? Of course they can. We're going to answer the questions: how should retailers adapt what they stock based on the shifting generations? How should they adapt what they promote? And how should they adapt who they partner with? And then we're going to leave you again with some more ways to involve your team in this. What I love so much about what the team has helped me create is this world where we give you this information in actionable form. Like, we don't want this to be stuff that you're just sitting there thinking to yourself, oh, this is fascinating information. This is not entertainment meant to be consumed. These are actions that you can take, intentional, consistent, small actions that you can take to become a richer retailer. So come back to the next episode, because it's a part 2 for this, because it will be amazing. Oh, Dana, I'm so glad you're along with us for this ride. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Cathy. It was great to be here.
All right. Bye, everybody.